All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode number 362 of the Restoring Rapport podcast. I'm super excited for the content we got planned out for you guys today, as always. This is a podcast for young believers who are pursuing the goal of marriage and family and trying to get married as young as possible in a healthy way. I'm your host, Seth Hensley. I come on twice a week, every week on Thursday and Sunday, to discuss not only the benefits of getting married young, but I try to equip and encourage you in your pursuit of that goal. And today, we're going to be reviewing hopefully the next, third of Dr. Peterson's first episode on his marriage series that's only exclusively available on Daily Wire Plus. So if you want to check out the full thing, go subscribe to them and watch it. But I've watched the full thing, and I'm trying to review it for you now and give you all my thoughts on it, as well as we're going to go over some statistics by Brad Wilcox, who is a sociology professor at the University of Virginia, on why marriage is actually a good idea, the benefits that it has for people in general and young men in particular, and the reasons that you're probably designed to get married, both scripturally, according to God's word, and according to basic common sense logic and stats. So let's go ahead and start reviewing this episode. The first part of this episode was the last two episodes. You can go back and listen to them. Episode 360 and 361 have the first section of this review. So go back and listen to those before you pick up here. But let's go ahead and get started.
That sacrifices even yourself to the demands of the moment. We could say something else about that too. You might say, well, I want to be free to pursue what I want to pursue. It's like what you want to pursue, eh? Who's the you we're talking about here? So you're satisfying your lust, you're satisfying your gluttony, you're satisfying your envy, you're satisfying your rage, you're satisfying your sense of victimization. What makes you think that those aren't gods that are ruling you? You think that's you and your freedom to be as impulsive hedonically as you want? Why aren't you just in the grip of a lesser devil? Because that's exactly what it looks like to me, and it certainly plays out that way in people's lives. That short-term impulsive hedonism, which is the lack of the sacrificial mentality, that produces nothing but chaotic disaster, anxiety, misery, a decrement in happiness overall. Certainly no noble pursuit, no adventure, nothing but a pathetic, cringing, oldest frat boy at the party nihilism by the age of 40. There is nothing good about that. And so you take on the responsibility of a marriage. Voluntarily, as an adventure, you take on the responsibility of children. It's good to bring children into the world. It's proper to bring them into a well-constituted marriage. And then you might say, well, what's on the upside? Is it all burden and responsibility? And the answer to that is, well, you have people around you that you love.
Let's pause right here real quick. And he mentioned the benefit that marriage has for children. And I want to share this tab with you guys right here. This is the coolest thing. So Brad Wilcox has recently, well, not recently, I think it's about a year old or so, put out a book entitled Get Married, Why Americans Must Defy the Elites, Forge Strong Families, and Save Civilization. He has one quote in here that just really summarizes how grave we need to understand that marriage is a good thing, because we're considering all these other lesser things as, impactful in our lives, and really a more impactful choice that you can make that is more likely to produce the fruit in your life that you want to produce is just getting married, man. It really is more likely to produce the fruit you want to produce. And I'll go over that with you in a little bit, but he is awesome. This guy, I've listened to one interview with him on Brett. What's his name? Who does the Art of Manliness podcast? Brett McKay. I've listened to one interview of him on Brett McKay's podcast. I'm in the process of reading through his book here, and with that book, it's the coolest thing on Audible. I got the audiobook. I'm listening to somebody read it. And the coolest thing is it comes with this PDF of all of his sources, all of his statistics, all of his stats, all of his research. And basically, it's broken down by chapter. So you can see the sources for his work and his claims that he makes in the book in this, what he calls the enhancement. And it's just a PDF that goes through the stats that he has for this. And a lot of people think this is boring. When I start reading you like stats and numbers, they think that's kind of boring and they just kind of skip that part of the podcast, that's fine. But the reason I do this is we're living in a world where it's very important to give your source, because anybody can make any claim they want. And I'm shocked, and increasingly more shocked, by the number of people who are comfortable making claims, but they don't have the source to back up the claim that they're making. And you really need to have the source just so that it can be investigated whether or not you have a good source. There's good sources and bad sources on the internet now, and you've got to be able to know the difference. And that's why it's very important that I make my sources available to public scrutiny, so that you can decide whether or not you think my source is a good source, and you can clearly see that it's not, made up junk, spam, stuff like that. All right. And so let's look for his. Can I control F search on here? I certainly can. Okay. Let's look at just the figures. There are 13 examples of times in his charts here that he discusses the impact of a healthy marriage on children. And let's look through those here. Figure 1.3, he says the share of children in intact married families ticking up. This is the percent of children from age 0 to 17 living with married biological parents. In 2007, it was 60.6. That fell to 57.8 in 2012, and in 2022 it's 58.9. Let's scroll down to his next one. Figure 1.5, share married with children versus single with no children. Percent of adults ages 18 to 55. So let's see, what is the thing that I'm looking for the stats in here where he talks about the benefits of marriage for children. I don't know if this is going to show me or not, because this is the first time that I've looked through this PDF. Okay, so the single with no children is right here, and the married with children is right here. That's showing the number maybe of children. Let me look at the top here. Figure 1.4, U.S. marriage rate close to all-time low. Okay, in 2021. Number of newly married people over 1,000 unmarried Americans ages 15 and up. In 1960, 80% of adults ages 18 and up were married. That rose to 85.9% in 1970, which I didn't know. And then it's steadily fallen since then to the current rate we're at today, where 30.5%. Gosh. Number of newly married people per 1,000 unmarried Americans age 15 and up, though. 15 is not usually, they're not even legal adults yet. So that's why this figure is so low. I was going to say only 30.5% of people married, but it is going to be higher than that if you start it at 18 when people are legal adults. I don't know why this study starts at 15. I think that's a little bit weird. Maybe that's the youngest age that has been married in that state or something like that. I don't know. But the source right here is, I love how he includes this, is Institute for Family Studies, new census data, key takeaways on divorce, marriage, and fertility in the U.S. And it was put out on September 22nd, 2022. Let's look at his next one here. The Masters of Marriage, Asian Americans. The top 10 countries for children and married families. Oh, the top 10 counties. Okay. So this is basically a chart showing the counties in which children are usually going to have two married parents in the home. It looks like Utah County in Utah is the leading with 89% of children under 18 in married couple families. That is absolutely insane. So if you go to Utah County, Utah, 9 out of 10 kids have two parents in the home, which is just absolutely crazy. And I know that's an insane measurement. And that's nowhere near where most counties are, I would imagine, because these are the top. But what I want him to show you here, I'm looking for his chart on the actual benefits, like children being more likely to graduate, less likely to be incarcerated, things like that, just simply by having the presence of an involved father in the home. Because I know that's true, because I've seen lots of stats on it, but I want to see his. This figure 2.1 here, can I zoom in a little bit for you guys to show you this a little bit more? I think, yeah. Right here. By the way, this podcast is becoming increasingly more visual, guys. So if you're still listening on Apple or Spotify, that's great, but go to YouTube and watch this, because I'm telling you, the audio is like a third of the content that we're producing. You really miss out on so many charts and visual examples if you're only listening to the podcast. Now, I do like podcasts because they're very accessible. You can listen to them in the car and stuff, and that's when I listen to podcasts. So if that's you, that's fine. But if you have time, check it out on YouTube. I was able to zoom in though, so this is huge. Let me zoom in just a little bit more and show you guys this. All right, figure 2.1, counties with the most two-parent families. Darker regions have more two-parent families. So the darker regions here in my state, Ohio, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 counties with a lot of two-parent families. Now look right here. My county is actually looks like the 60 to 79% of children in my county have two parents in the home. I did not know that. So if you guys live in Lawrence County, Ohio, 60 to 79% of children actually have two parents in the home. And, while that might seem like a lot, it really does. It is sobering too, because it lets you know just how many children are struggling, at least according to the data, in theory, to do things like avoid prison and get good grades in school and, stay physically healthy, because if you have two parents in the home, you are more likely to have those things easily accessible to you. But look at that. Lawrence County has 60 to 79% of children have two parents in the home. That is crazy. And it even has Alaska and Hawaii down here. Hawaii looks like it's the same across the board. His source for that was the Opportunity Atlas by Raj Chetty et al. Data obtained from the 2012-2016 American Community Survey. Very recent data. Most data is not that recent. He does have some data here from like 2022, which is pretty insane. But still, definitely well within our lifetime as Gen Zers. Let me see if I can find... keep going. Okay, the family diversity myth. Love and money, not marriage, make a family. Wow, so this is a crazy claim, and that is the family diversity myth. There's this idea going around that children have an equal opportunity and likelihood for success if they're raised in, alternative styles of family to the nuclear family, which is a mom, dad, and children. And so that's kind of a myth, and he's going to break down that why here today. Figure 4.1, children from intact families most likely to graduate college. So this is an example, graduating college. If you have children, he's going to show you the percentage that your children will graduate college here. Intact families, so that being defined as, I would imagine, a nuclear family, mom, dad, and children, 43% are likely to graduate college. Blended families, 17%. Single mother, 20%. Single father, 20%. Adopted parents, 28%. So you can see here that intact families is actually one of the best indicators and predictors we have of your child actually graduating college. This is based on adults ages 28 to 34 surveyed in 2013 through 14 by the National Longitudinal Survey of Youth in 1997. Let's look down through here more. I want to see if he has more. Yes, here we go. 4.2, children from non-intact families more likely to have problems at school. So if your child is from, and I'm not saying this to dog anyone that you know or condemn anyone that you know who has a different family setup, or maybe particularly an unfortunate family setup where a partner has either died or withdrawn from the marriage and left the other partner to raise the child by his or herself. That's a very difficult situation. I'm not condemning those people or anything like that. What I'm saying here, though, is I'm talking to young believers who are pursuing the goal of marriage and family, trying to get married as young as possible in a healthy way according to God's design. There are consequences to your actions, okay? And people who act like there's no consequence for any kind of family setup you have are either ignorant or deceiving you, okay? There are consequences for how you raise children. There are consequences for how you do your marriage, all right? This is the percentage of parents contacted by school for children's behavior problems, all right? Married birth parents, only 13%, okay? Widowed mom or dad, 20%. So that's a parent who's died. Cohabiting birth parents, 21%. Birth and step parent, 24%. Divorced mother, 25%. Never married mother, 29%. Adopted parents, 37%, okay? This is the U.S. Department of Education for the National Household Education Survey in 2016. So basically, you can see here the lowest likelihood that a school is going to call parents about their child's behavior, saying your child has some behavior issues, the lowest possible percentage of that happening is if the child has married birth parents. Okay. And I'm reading, and I know I'm on a huge tangent here from what Jordan Peterson was talking about, but he's talking about the benefits. He just briefly mentioned there the benefits of a healthy marriage for children. It's a healthy marriage is not just about you. And this is kind of a myth that is going around. Like, a healthy marriage is one of the best things you can give your children, not just yourself or your spouse. Okay. And this is why your children are, way less likely, your children are basically way less likely to have behavior problems at school. And I would imagine, I would insinuate that they're way less likely to have behavior problems anywhere, not just school, because of this. Figure 4.3, young men and women from non-intact families are more likely to go to prison. Percent ever incarcerated by age, 28. Okay, so by 28, we're gonna look here. All right, intact families, 9%. Okay, and 2% for women. 9% for men, 2% for women. Blended families, 19%, and 5% for women. Single mother, 19%, 6% for women. Okay, so if these children had a single father, 27% of them, guys, 27% have been incarcerated by age 28. That's the men. And then the women, 6%. So the women are kind of staying low regardless of, whether or not they had both parents present in the home. Adoptive parents, same thing. Sadly, 27% have been incarcerated by age 28. Children of adoptive parents. So look at this top part though. This is what I'm highlighting to you. Children of intact families, 9%, lowest percentage of any of these living situations, these family situations. Okay. Blended families, 19%, jumps it over double. Okay. Over triple for a single parent, a single mother or father, a single father actually. Over triple, guys. So basically you're tripling single father homes. The children produced by that family situation are 3 times more likely to go to prison, to be incarcerated by age 28. And people act like it's just not a problem and that it doesn't matter what your family is. It does matter. The syntax of your family makes a huge difference on the course of your child's life. And people who either, again, are telling you that doesn't make a difference are either lying to you or they're ignorant of the data. Okay. Your marriage situation really does make a difference for your children. Yikes. Okay, let's look at abuse. Child abuse more common in non-intact families. Number of children who experienced the incident of harm per 1,000 children. Okay, married biological parents, children that were produced by married biological parents had, it was 1.9%. Okay, 1.9%. And that's just physical abuse. Okay. Other married parents, 9.8%. So, gosh, almost 9 times more likely to have if children who are produced by other married parents are almost 9 more times likely to be abused. Look at this. Look at this right down here. A single parent with a partner, children who are being raised by a single parent with a partner, 19.5% have had physical abuse. Okay? I think. I hope I'm not reading this chart wrong. But look at the point is like almost 20 times more likely than children who are raised by married biological parents to be abused. Children who are the produce of single parent with a partner homes are almost 19 more times more likely to be physically abused than kids who are raised by married biological parents. That is absolutely crazy. This source is the 4th National Incident Study of Child Abuse and Neglect. That's a 2010 study, so that one is almost 14 years old, like 15 years old now. But again, these studies don't come out that often, so that is probably the most recent data that we have. Let's see here. Any more times that he talks about this? Any more times? Share of children in intact married families ticking up. No, that's just a measurement of children in. Well, that's good. That's an encouraging thought. All right, let's get back to Jordan Peterson's article, though. I wanted you guys to see basically the data behind the claim that children who are raised in the nuclear 2-parent mother and father family are more likely to be avoid incarceration, to have less trouble in school, and they're less likely to have any kind of abuse. All right, and that is extremely important information that you need to have that's a measurement. Okay, it's not just a claim without a measurement; it's an actual measurement. But let's continue to see why Jordan Peterson says that marriage is important, not just for you, but for your kids.
Hypothetically, your family members, and you're pretty happy that you have a family, so you're not completely alone. And I know sometimes people have miserable, disjointed, horrible families, but usually even in those situations when a mother or father dies, the children grieve. So there's even value to be found there. It's like you got a family. It's like, you could expand that family. You could have kids, and then all of a sudden you'd have more people who are just as important to you as the most important people in your life has ever been. Now, why is that a problem? And then there's more. That child wants more than anything else to have the best possible relationship with you that anyone ever had with anyone. That's what they want. And you could have that with the child if you got your act together. And so then you could be surrounded by people who have the best relationship with you that there could possibly be. And that could last for the rest of your life. It's like, where's the problem here? And then you think, well, kids, they interfere with what do they interfere with exactly? Like cocaine-fueled binge parties? Yeah, they interfere with that. And maybe that's good because then you won't die stupidly face down in a ditch. And I can say that with some authority because I had clients who died exactly that way. And I wouldn't recommend it, precisely. And children, they reward you like
And what he's talking about here, that argument that children are a hindrance to their parents, actually comes from a place of, seeing children as a hindrance to your own hedonism and selfish desires and immaturity, and which they are, like he said. Children are a hindrance to hedonism, selfish desires, and immaturity. They will grow you, they will mature you. Talk to any parent, okay? But the good parents, you'll notice, will say that the children they have is one of the best decisions they've ever made, and that they would never go back to their immature self. They would never go back to that, state of being without a child. Where again, like Jordan Peterson pointed out here, there is a relationship possible that is very good. Why would they want to go back on that? Again, when people act like having kids is the worst decision they've ever made, they're advertising the fact that they're selfish people because, selfish people can't take care of another person. They're just only concerned about getting what they want. All right. And so, yeah, I totally agree with him there. I think that's spot on.
Mad, as long as you put down a minimum of rules and you have some order in the household and some predictability so that they don't get hot or cold or wet or tired or hungry. That's about the whole limit of child catastrophe. So if you can get that under control, you've pretty much got it. They're so much fun to be around that why would you do anything else? As a woman, you have the opportunity for a lot of cuddling and intimate love, and women, good mothers, are really good at that, especially with infants. They're very good at seeing the nascent person and establishing a relationship very early on. But once the child's old enough to engage in a little bit of play, rough and tumble play, which is more on the male side, then that's just a continual blast. And part of what you end up doing with kids, which is kind of sad, is they're so much fun that half the time what you do is discipline them because they're having too much fun.
True. Hey, this guy, it seems like he's been around kids a lot. And I don't know his background he's not a child psychologist. I know he's a counselor. I know he's, done a lot of therapy work with people, but he seems like he knows what he's talking about with kids, because I work with kids professionally full time as a public school teacher, and man, they are a blast. They're an absolute blast. And exactly like he said, when they're not a blast, it's either the result of a terrible home life and they're just acting out of the dysfunctional soil they're growing in, or they're having so much fun that you actually have to rein them in. Because they will either get hurt or do something that could have a serious consequence or something like that. So children really are fun. This whole lie that children aren't fun, again, I'm not saying there aren't hard parts about parenting. I know there are, but I'm talking to you young people here, and I want you to don't buy lies that children are a poor investment. Don't buy lies that children are something you shouldn't invest your future into. Don't buy lies that having children is a bad idea. All of those things come from a very poor worldview. And usually what I want you to do is just examine the quality of the person who's saying that and compare it to, who do you want to be? Do you want to be somebody? Ask a successful parent who has a very loving relationship with their child. Ask that person if they regret having children. You're always going to get the no answer. Okay. If you go to a family with some serious issues and they're broadcasting the fact that they would definitely not have liked to have children, they would go back to their season of singleness because that was the best time of their life or whatever. Which spot do you want to end up in your life? Okay. Which spot do you want to end up in? And again, with reference to my previous point, single people, that's fine and everything, but singleness is a life of immaturity because again, it's you satisfying your own hedonistic desires, doing whatever you want, whenever you want, however you want, and not really taking care of anyone else. Okay. With children, it's the exact opposite of that. And if you're going to have children, just look to the two outcomes. Do you want to have the kind of relationship with your child that parent A had, the one who doesn't regret having children? Or do you want to have the kind of relationship with your child that parent B had, who said that they would rather, be out partying and living life as a single individual free of responsibility? Which relationship with your child do you want? Because I think option A is clearly better on all accounts.
Because they're noisy and boisterous and running around the place, and that can just get to be too much. You have to put a limit on that impulsive play as well. And then kids play all the time. If you can establish the conditions for that, which is an indication that you have your household set up right, because then the children will play. And there isn't any higher form of activity than play. And so if your household is set up properly, then you can all play, and that's the best thing you can possibly do. So I just don't see that as a particular problem too. And then you might think, well, I have to establish a secure basis for them, and I have to be a reliable provider. And it's like, yeah, okay, you got something better to do? And you're going to have a career or a job, and you need to be maximally motivated to do that properly, because otherwise you're going to be a scoundrel at half-wit and you're going to laze around and be useless. And some of that's got to come from demand. Some of it should be, well, I want to be a good plumber, or I want to be a good electrician. There's some hope in it. But some of it should also be, hey, I got people depending on me, and I better grow up and do a good job, because otherwise there's going to be some unnecessary suffering of the innocents. And
Absolutely true. In fact, let me go back here, and I'm going to look up money on the enhancement sheet by Brad Wilcox, the stats for his book. And I don't know if you guys know this or not, and it's often presented as the opposite of this, but married men usually make more money, and it's for the exact reason that Dr. Peterson just pointed out. And that is, men who take on responsibility of caring for a partner and their children are more incentivized to make good choices, work smarter, work harder in order to bring in more for their family. Okay. If you are a man and you don't have anyone to take care of, you don't have anyone to care for, you're less likely to work harder and smarter in your life, because you're content to just spend your money on yourself. You don't have to take care of other people. Okay. And the more people you have to take care of, the more necessary it becomes, while still living a good life, to make more money. Okay. And so I want to look at the times that Brad Wilcox talks about money in his article here. He says the closing of the American heart, marriage predicts happiness better than education, work, and money. This is slightly unrelated, but I do want to look at this here. Your 500, just roughly looking at this chart here, the options that these adults had were, let me read it, make sure I'm reading this correctly for you, because stats are, if you read it wrong, you can say something very wrong. So I'm trying to be really careful with you guys. But figure 1.1 says marriage predicts happiness better than education, work, or money. Odds of being very happy increase by 545%. For people who are in what they call a very happy marriage. Okay. That's crazy. Okay. Because they have very satisfied with work here, married here, higher income here, college degree here. But the header here is marriage predicts happiness better than education, work, and money. And the odds of being very happy increase by 545%. In a very happy marriage. Now, if it's just a marriage, it's still higher than a college degree, higher income, and very satisfied with work people, but 151% is much lower than 545%. And the difference there is whether or not the marriage is described as very happy or just happy. because you'll notice I'm always talking to young believers who are pursuing the goal of a healthy marriage and family. I'm not talking to people who are pursuing the goal of just an average or mediocre marriage, which nobody really is. But I'm talking to people who are intentionally pursuing the very happy marriage. That's the difference here. Look at that, and that's a 400% difference. Just between a marriage and a very happy marriage, according to the odds of you being happy in your life. Okay. That's a big, according to this study. And this was based on adults ages 18 to 55. Higher income refers to family income of equal to or more than 60,000 a year. Those in very happy marriages compared with those who are unmarried or in less than very happy marriages. Each model controls for race, gender, and age, and the source is the General Social Survey 2014 to 2018. I want to look, in fact, let's look at men here because I know he's going to cover this a little bit. I want to see if he has anything in this article that is about, okay, this might be it. The flying solo myth. So there's people who think, no, I don't think this is it. I want to look at the one where he's talking about the pursuit of happiness. No. I want to look at the one where he's talking about income. Okay, right here, figure 3.1. Married men in their 50s have more assets. Medium financial assets in 2016 dollars. Stably married, $399,000. Remarried, $179,000. Divorced, $34,000. Never married, $12,000. So basically, this is the median financial assets that men had in their 50s. And it basically, stably married are like way higher, double as high as remarried. I can't even tell how many times higher than divorced. And look at the lowest category right here, $12,800 in assets at age 50 if you're never married. Compare that to $399,000 being the median age of the median financial assets number in 2016. Absolutely unbelievable. This is based on a study of adults ages 51 to 60. Divorced includes those who are separated or widowed, and the source is the National Longitudinal Survey of Youth in 1979. That is unreal. Look at this chart. So don't tell me that you're richer and you have more money and you basically have more as a single man. You don't. There are a couple of reasons for that. Just in my own personal life experience, we would make half what we do if Lainey and I both were living individually single lives. If she was working as a single person and I was working as a single person, we would have half the household income that we have now. I make about $47,000 a year and Lainey makes the same or slightly more. So we have about $100,000 a year coming into our home. We would have half that if we weren't married. So immediately, to me, people who say you're better off financially as a single individual are just not thinking. Number two, I wouldn't have even been incentivized at all to get a good paying job or a semi good paying job if I didn't have Lainey and my future children to take care of. I could have easily just continued working at Chick-fil-A or McDonald's or just a fast food restaurant to pay for my personal hobbies. Some guys buy dirt bikes, some guys buy cars, some guys buy video games, some guys do like gym stuff. I could have easily paid for all those individualistic hobbies by working a worse job than I do now. Okay. And so therefore I would not be incentivized to get a better job. Do you see how this works? I wouldn't be incentivized to get a better job unless I had other people to take care of. Because you can't just support a family on any job. That's not how it works. You have to get a good job to take care of people. And good jobs are hard to get. There's always a price to get a good job. So again, married men are more incentivized because they have to take care of other people. That's why that's another reason that I would say on average, the median is they make more and they have more assets by the time they're 50 than do single men. And look at the gap here, guys, $12,000 compared to $399,000. And the same evidently here is true for married women in their 50s. Which, by the way, this is the information on that if you're interested. So really, it's the same thing for women. Slightly higher earnings than men who are, never married, but only by about $200 median. And then, look right here. I mean, still in the 357,000 mark. Just absolutely crazy. man, is there anything I want to look for more of those, but I don't know if they have any more finances. Let's see what he termed that in this chart. The flying solo, no, let's medium household income. Okay, yes. By their 30s, married men and women have the largest incomes. Okay, by their 30s, married men and women have the largest income. And so he's saying here that the flying solo is a myth, and that that the claim that marriage is of no benefit to men and women today is false, even if only for the financial argument for marriage. Table 3.1, by their 30s, men and women have the largest incomes. This is the median household income by relationship status. But married men, the median household income for married men is $95,000. The median household income for women, $90,000. The median household income for men who are cohabiting is $68,000. And cohabiting women, the median household income is $67,000. The single, this is where the huge drop off is. The single median household income by relationship status is $42,000 for men, $38,000 for women. So literally half, which again makes sense because you got two people who can work. And even if you don't have two people who can work, like let's say the wife is going to be a stay-at-home mom, you still got to have, the husband still has to have a job that can support the family. Okay. And so he's still going to have to make more compared to a guy who just doesn't have to support anyone but his own, hobbies. It's common sense, really. I don't really understand why people claim that you have more money when you're single. I mean, I do in the sense of like, you're spending that money on yourself instead of other people. But again, are we trying to be mature people here? Or are we trying to be selfless, serving, and people who have take on responsibility here? Because there's a huge difference. Okay, there's a huge difference. So yeah, I don't really understand the claim that you make more money as a single person. It makes literally zero sense to me. But yeah, so let's continue with Jordan Peterson's episode here, and let's see what his next statement is. So far, what he's saying is checking out with the data, and I've really enjoyed reviewing this article.
So what? You have kids, now you have to grow up and somehow know now you're not Peter Pan, and that's supposed to be a problem? I don't see that as a problem. I see that as an opportunity. And then you might say, well, you marry the same old person. It's like, if you're bored by someone, okay, that's you. That's you. You're caught in the prisons of your own presumptions, and you're overlaying something on people, and it's some dead and sterile apprehension you have about the nature of humanity, and you're just running into that over and over. And you think, oh, people are so boring. It's like, nope, that's you. If it's people,
people are not boring. People are not boring. I've never heard somebody claim that, but to say that people are boring seems incredibly ignorant to me. I think anybody who's spent any time with people can very quickly discover how fascinating they are, even if you just watch them make decisions. So yeah, I don't understand that if you've heard people say don't get married because it's boring and you'll get bored of your partner, that's just a limitation in the way they're viewing the world. I don't think that's true at all. I could spend every minute of my life in extreme study and observation of my wife, and I would still be learning and discovering new things about her on the day I died. Because people really are fascinating. I don't know what they mean, what that person means by saying that people are boring. I'm trying to get you guys a more high resolution video here, because for some reason my internet is usually really good, but for some reason it's not playing this article or this video with high quality. So I'm trying to fix that. Hopefully this did it. But again, people who perceive others as boring are either, narcissistic or just not intelligent enough to observe the fascinating decision-making process that others have, and the personality that others have, and the intricacies that others have. If you can't pick up on those, you're either not paying attention, you're not intelligent enough to see them, or you're a narcissist.
If women are a problem and you're a man, that's you. If men are a problem and you're a woman, that's you. And if you're bored by people, that's you. And so now you're bored by your partner. It's like, are you bored by your partner, or what are you bored by what you forced them to become? Or are you bored by your lack of creative imagination on the erotic and intimate front? Are you bored by the fact that you've turned your house into a sterile, fear-ridden prison? It's like, just who's boring here? And then the next issue is, well, what makes you think that someone isn't an infinite mystery? It's like, you are.
True.
Have you tried getting yourself under control? That's real difficult. You're full of snakes and surprises. You don't think your partner's exactly the same way? And of course, there's a downside to that because you run into weird impediments as you move forward together. But there's this infinite wellspring of mystery. And I would say, when you fall in love with someone, which is generally the precondition for marriage, when you fall in love with someone, you see that infinite wellspring of mystery. It's granted to you as a gift. And then if you have any sense and you're willing to devote yourself to it in no small manner, then you can foster that infinite wellspring to continually pour forth, and you'll find that that one person you're with is way more interesting than any plethora of short-term shallow relationships that you could possibly imagine.
And not only that, again, just let's follow the short-term relationships mating strategy to its natural conclusion. All of those young men are dying alone with no permanent relationships, nothing long-term. They never get to know a woman's heart past the 6-month mark or whatever. They never get to know a woman in any way. Physically, emotionally, mentally, they never get to know her in any way beyond the 6-month mark or whatever the month mark is. The point is, all of those relationships end, and that man misses out entirely on the joys of something permanent and lasting, okay? If you build a relationship that lasts a lifetime, that's going to be a much better relationship than any kind of thing that you can build, in the short term. All right. Because it has something that the short term doesn't have, and that's shared history, time together. Right. So just, what do you want, man? Do you want the life of, hooking up with different people and it lasts like 2 months or whatever? You want the life of dating somebody 1 week and somebody else the next, even if you're not sleeping together. Like, what kind of life do you want here? What kind of relationship with the opposite sex do you want here? Something that's always ending in disaster, always ending in flames, always ending in disappointment? Or do you want something that lasts a lifetime that you can continually build upon and make better every single day?
And I do not believe that there are people who don't know that. We all know that. We know it. And we might come up with a very large number of rationalizations for why we don't need to take responsibility and why short-term, hedonic, pleasure-centered one-night stands are just the thing. But I don't see any of that credible in the least. And I would also like to point out on the promiscuity front that also presents a non-trivial and constant public health danger.
True.
We just about took ourselves out with AIDS, and everybody shorted out about that for about 15 years. And it doesn't look to me like we've got any smarter in the interim. Now, and then you might say, well, who needs marriage? It's just a piece of paper. We'll just live together and our love can carry us through. It's like, really, you're so good at loving, are you? You're that good that that'll just carry you through. You don't need to stand up in front of your whole community and bind yourself in commitment and to the other person and to make that public, and to make it formal, and to ally yourselves with the monogamous traditions of the past. You're above all that, are you? It's just a piece of paper. That's your argument. And so, no, because to be bound together in marriage is a very difficult thing. There are many forces that will pull you apart, and your family and your friends and your community need to know that you're dead serious about this, and you need to know that they're on board for the game. The in-laws and the extended friendship networks of both couples have to be brought into this as part of the broader community that supports the married couple. And so if you can't sacralize that with one-day ceremony, then you have to ask yourself, just how committed are you to this other person or to yourself? It's so shallow. And men do this to women a lot, because my experience has been women are generally, if they're living with someone, are much more unhappy about the fact that it's merely, or more overtly unhappy, that it's merely a short-term arrangement. And then we could go into that. Well, you should try someone out before you live with them. Really, like a used car, that's what you should do. You take them for a test drive and see if you're compatible. And you could say, well, yeah, that's the sensible thing to do. It's like, okay, let's look at the data. Do couples who live together before they're married get divorced more or less than couples who just get married? And the answer is they get divorced more. And so it doesn't work. Why?
Okay. So right there, I wish he would have given a source for that because I would love to look at that on the air with you guys. He probably has it in the credits of this episode. But let's see if cohabitation is in. Oh, look at that! It is, dude. He's got. Wait. Maybe. Oh. Okay. He's got 2 places in this. No, he doesn't. He doesn't talk about it. Man, I was hoping he would have talked about the difference between. It had some data comparing cohabitation and marriage, and he does above. We already went over this chart here, and you can see that cohabiting people, I mean, on average, do have a median household income that's higher than single people, but it's still like $30,000 lower than married people. Which, if you believe that marriage is just a piece of paper, I would like to hear you explain that, because like if it's just a piece of paper and it has no other kind of benefit for you, why is the household income so much higher? Like by $30,000, it's not some tiny amount. The median household income, again. And again, I don't think marriage is just a piece of paper, but I do think all of the data that I've seen here, and I'm not just being like, what do you call it? Like biased in my selection. Like I challenge you, anybody who disagrees with me, if you go online and you look at peer-reviewed articles, like if you go to the Pew Research Center or something like that, and you look at the data, but that compares both married couples and cohabiting couples, especially single couples, like the gap between singles or not single couples, single individuals and married people is huge. Like mental health, emotional health, sexual flourishing, money making, ability to live your life without the crippling effects of drugs, alcohol, and all kinds of other abuse addiction, like substance abuse. It is so striking, the difference between single people and married people. As David Brooks says, married men are less likely to abuse drugs and alcohol. They die later in life, and they have all these other benefits just by being married. Okay. And so, yeah, I'm not just being a biased source here. I challenge you, go on to Pew Research Center, go look for a credible article online that has a cited study, double-blind study about comparing the health of singles versus the health of married people. Usually, like almost all of the ones that I find overwhelmingly support marriage as the better lifestyle. Okay. And what I don't understand, I'm still working out this in my mind. The gap is huge between singles and married people. It's less so between cohabiting couples and married people, because you still have that person to keep you from being lonely and stuff. But I think the difference there, one of the big differences, is the fear of your partner leaving, because that person hasn't made any indication to you, either verbal or with their actions, that they're going to stick around with you forever. If they're just living with you, they haven't embraced any consequences for withdrawing from that union. So my mind personally would always be wondering if that was their plan, if that down the road, that's what they were going to end up doing. And so that's one difference, I think, between cohabiting and marriage. Yeah. So just let me know what you guys' thoughts on that were through the YouTube comments, and as well as send us the podcast a voice message or a text message to let us know what you think of that, because I'm still working out, some of the reasons why the data shows that. Another reason, as a believer, I would argue that's true, is that we have a God who has a personality. We have a God who has a character. We have a God who has set up the world to work a certain way, and you don't get to decide the laws of the universe. You don't get to decide how things work. You just get to decide whether or not you live in accord and harmony with those laws that God has set up. Okay. And I think that when you live in harmony with those laws that God has set up, there's fruit and there's rewards and there's positive consequences for that. Okay. And when you live in discord with those laws, there are negative consequences. Your life's going to be harder. There's going to be all these negative things that happen because you're choosing to live apart from God's design. So, I think God's designed marriage, the permanent state that is witnessed by both God and man, as the best way of living with your partner. That's another reason. Give me some other reasons you think that that marriage beats out cohabitation. Some other practical ones might be like if you own a home, like who gets it if you were to split up, things like that. There are problems with cohabitation, but I want to hear what you guys think the problems with cohabitation are and why it doesn't meet marriage as far as the data goes on any of the major fronts, like the money making, the health, the sexual intimacy, all that.
Well, let's delve into the philosophy of living together. It's like, okay, we've been going out for a while and we're not fighting too much and we kind of think we might be all right, or maybe we think this. You're the bloody best I can do for now. And so I'm kind of lonesome and some sex now and then wouldn't be a bad idea. So why don't we just live together and see how that goes? But if someone better comes along on either of our fronts, then why don't we reserve to ourselves the opportunity just to say, well, we're done with this because someone better has come along. It's like, that's the basis for your medium to long-term arrangement, is it? And you tell me you think it's different than that? It's a trial run. That doesn't work. It's what? It's an open door? Well, how committed are you going to be then? And you're not going to have an eye out for a better option continually, and you haven't given yourself permission for that? And you think, as a man, you think a woman's going to open up to you on the intimacy front, sexually, let's say, when there's ambivalence about the contractual permanence of the relationship? If you think that, you are naive beyond belief. And you can also be sure that your sex life is suffering in ways you can barely understand because of that. So I don't get the whole serial monogamy or the live together. No.
Imagine saying you have like the full sexual experience that God has designed you to have with a woman, and you have in no way promised to her that you're going to stick around forever. To me, that says if you've got anything at all, it's kind of like it's a way less the best experience, and it probably has some very serious negative consequences. And then, I mean, that's exactly what the Bible teaches. I think what he's saying here is in line both with common sense, what the Bible teaches, and, personal history for me. Like when you choose cheaper, I don't want to use the word cheap, when you choose alternate roads to the destination that God has designed you for, or you're missing out, man. You're missing out. Yeah, you're just missing out, dude. The wages of sin is death. Like it's not just a missing out either. It's like not only am I missing out, but I'm also I'm like heaping fire. I'm heaping an avalanche on my life. Like I'm damaging myself, and missing out on the better. It's just a double negative,
Motion. That just seems to be a non-starter to me. That's also partly because marriage is one of those all-in games. And so it's an act of faith. Why is it an act of faith? Well, you don't know if you can get along with this person. You're in love with them. You find them attractive. And I think those are two important preconditions. But you're both ignorant and young. You have no idea who you are, who you're going to be. How do you know that you can be married? And the answer is you don't know. You decide. You decide. That's the act of faith. It's like, I am going to act this out. And then even more, it's like, I'm going to act this out come hell or high water. And why? Well, because hell and high water are coming because you're alive and you're married and you're going to be together for decades. And so you are definitely going to go through the worst times of your life with this person. And then you might say, well, do you want to go through the worst times of your life alone? And are you better situated to survive the worst times of your life if you're with someone that you love? Is that a good joint arc to construct when the storms are coming?
Buddy, this is so good. Let me tell you something. I've been through the storms, the high water alone, and I've been through it with a partner, and there's no math. There's no math, man. One of the times was so much better, okay? One of the times was so much easier. One of the times was so much less lonely, okay? One of the times was there was camaraderie built through the hardship. And in the other time, it was just you suffering alone, man. Like anybody who everybody knows life's going to have hard stuff in it. Everybody knows life's going to have like difficulties and major challenges, really hard things. All right. And I smile when I'm saying it, but I mean, I'm dead serious. Like, it's going to have some tough stuff. So, like, do you want to go through that alone or with somebody, man? That's such a good question. And that's probably what I'll end on today for you guys. Like, if we're talking about marriage and we're just thinking through, you know, what that means and whether or not it's a good choice for you, which, my gosh, it probably is. Do you want to go through the bad stuff, the mud and the filth? Do you want to go through that alone, or do you want to go through that with somebody? That's really the question. And not only with just anybody. Do you want to go through that with somebody who will stay with you no matter what? That's what the marriage is. That's till death do us part, in sickness, health, for better, for worse, for richer or poorer. You know, that's what a marriage is. Okay, is you locked with your partner going through everything, and that's a beautiful thing, guys. There's a reason that God did, the first time He like gave humanity a challenging job, and He said, you know, like, go subdue, fill the earth, you know, take dominion over all these things. Like, it wasn't good that man should be alone, right? He made that marriage to do that, because doing it alone just sucks. It's just not the way, man. Keep that in mind. Keep that in mind when you start, you know, listening to these people telling you, yeah, man, life is just so much better as a single person. Yeah, man, you should just, you know, live it up. Take your time, bro. Do whatever you want. Don't get married. Don't have kids. All this. It's like, do you want to go through the hard stuff alone or with shallow, fleeting friendships that don't last? Or do you want to go through the hard stuff with somebody that'll never leave you? It's a great question. Thank you guys for listening today. I will talk to you next time. Let me know what your thoughts were on this episode through the link in the show notes. Not the link in the show notes. Restoring Reform Facebook and Instagram page. And then also you can give me a YouTube comment. Let me know what you thought. So thank you guys so much for listening today, and I will talk to you all next time.